Hi, this is Nick from TILTA. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Nucleus Nano II. The Nano II is a brand new wireless lens control system with an increased focus on external control, both for cameras and gimbals. The Nano II is going to be a great option for anyone who's just getting their first camera and they need the modern conveniences of a wireless lens control system. It's also going to be great for existing users of the Nucleus M and Nano, as it is fully compatible with both of those systems. Lastly, it's going to be a perfect option for anyone who is working with a more high-end system that needs a lightweight and affordable backup unit. So to start, we're going to take a look at what is included with the base kit of the Nucleus Nano II. When you first open up the unit, you'll find the hand unit, the motor, as well as a USB-C power cable. And underneath this main tab, you'll find a photographic lens ring adapter, a 15mm rod, as well as a 15mm rod holder, and an Allen key for mounting the rod and rod holder. So you might be thinking that the components included in this kit are fairly similar to the original Nano. However, the majority of the changes do rest in the hand unit itself, with the new touchscreen display, as well as the 3-motor control with an expanded handle. This unit is now much more capable than the previous version. The camera control is going to allow you to control camera settings via USB-C, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, and it's also going to have some compatibility with the DJI Ronin series of gimbals, that being the RS2 and the RS3 Pro. The motor itself now uses USB-C, and it uses 2 USB-C ports, allowing you to pass power through to multiple motors while also having significantly more torque than the original Nano. First thing you'll notice will be the 1.6-inch touchscreen display. This is going to be how you select most options on the unit itself. Right next to that, you'll find a record button, which can also be used to power the unit or send run-stop through USB-C, and for some compatible cameras, also Wi-Fi. Next to that, you'll find a zoom toggle, which can be used to control a motor. This can be used to control either zoom, focus, or iris. It can be assigned to whatever function you'd like. Next to that, you'll find the function button, which is going to serve as a way to calibrate the motors as well as to set marks. Moving along the side, you'll find a switch that switches between TF and DF, similar to some of our handles for the ring grip. This is going to allow you to spin the unit infinitely if needed to adjust sensitivity, or from using an accessory like the DJI focus motor. When using with the Nucleus motor, you'll want this just in the normal TF section. On the inside, you have a NATO rail mount. A couple features of that would be the contact pins, which is how the unit can draw power with compatible accessories. Please do not slide the hand wheel onto a NATO rail, as this can damage the pins. On the far side of the unit, you'll find a USB-C port. This can be used to charge and power the internal battery. Please note the internal battery has an operating temperature of 14 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This can also be used for firmware updates if you are not updating through Wi-Fi. And lastly, you have the hand wheel control itself. This can be mapped to any motor, most likely focus, but also iris and zoom if needed. So that was a brief overview of the physical features of this unit. Next, we're going to take a look at the motor. All right, so looking at the motor, we're going to go over a couple of the key features. The first one being the motor driver, which is going to be offset from the main gearing, allowing the motor to not as easily push away from the lens during use. Next to that, you'll find the 2 USB-C ports, which can be used to power the motor, as well as pass through power to additional motors. Above that, you'll find the motor gearing, which is 0.8 pitch, and it's going to physically connect to your lens in order to move the focus distance. Right below that, you'll find an LED indicator, which will show a few different colors, signaling what function the motor is currently assigned to. Next to that is a pairing button, which can be used to pair the motor to the hand unit as well as calibrate the motor. And at the bottom, you'll find the mount for a 15mm rod as well as the tie down to secure the motor to a rod. We're now going to take a look at the user interface of the Nano II hand wheel. Starting on the main page, up at the top, you have your wireless channel indicator, currently set to channel 9. You have your Wi-Fi status symbol. You have your battery information, Bluetooth status, record and standby indicator, as well as your 3 motor parameters for zoom, focus, and iris, all currently set to 0. You have the focus knob range, which is indicated with the circle in the center of the UI. You have your set mark button down at the bottom, as well as your screen lock button. You have 2 arrows signaling additional settings, and then you have your autofocus to manual focus switch button. Swiping over to the next screen, you'll find a camera setting lock button up at the top, standby record indicator, as well as recording time. F-stop, shutter speed, ISO, white balance, and your resolution, data rate, and frames per second. And at the very bottom, you'll find your protocol information. On the last page, you'll find your current focal distance, the brand of lens, the model of lens, f-stop information, and focal length information. And then in the same position as the other screen, you have your A and B mark setting button, just with a different indicator. You can swipe twice more to return to the home screen. Now we're going to take a look at how to set up the system for the very first time. So we're going to start the assembly process with the motor. We're going to connect the motor via a 15mm rod, and we're going to line it up with the gear ring on our lens, and then tighten the motor in place with the tie down. From there, we're going to look at a few different options we have for powering the motor via the included USB-C to USB-C cable. So I'm going to connect this into port number 2. Keep in mind, both port 1 and 2 are inputs, but only port 1 is an output, meaning if you need to chain together multiple motors, you will need to leave port 1 open. So a few different options we have, one of which would be our universal power bank holder. This is going to allow you to mount an external battery pack via quarter 20 to your camera cage or similar system. And you can see the motor has power as the red and white light is blinking, signaling that the motor needs to be calibrated. Another option would be our F970 battery plate, which also has USB-C and allows you to power the motor via a swappable Sony F970 or 570 battery. Another option would be using the USB-C of a battery plate, such as our smart V-mount battery plate. This is going to be convenient as it'll give you a PD USB-C output, allowing you to provide a bit more torque to the motor itself. And lastly, we have our PD power handle, which is convenient as it also gives you a way to operate your camera while including an internal battery that can provide a USB-C PD output. So those are just a few different options you have. However, we also have USB-C to P-tap, as well as a variety of other ways to power the system. Next, we're going to take a look at how to pair the hand unit to the motor. We're now going to pair the hand unit to the main motor. We can do so by swiping up on the main screen and then selecting the connect option, and then 2.4G, and then channels. This will show us a list of all available channels, which the unit will automatically connect to the cleanest. If we need to remove a specific channel, we can do so by tapping it. If we need to invert the selection and only pick a handful of channels, we can use the invert key. And if we need to reselect all of the channels, we can use the all key. If you have one specific channel that you'd like to connect to, you can press the icon in the top left corner to select to that one individual channel. For this case, we'll use auto to find the cleanest channel and then press search. We can then double tap the pairing button on our motor and we'll see a few different options appear. All we need to do is press confirm for it to select the cleanest option. And we're now connected to the motor and ready to calibrate. And then once connected, we can then press the pairing button once to change the color. Green will signify that the motor is selected to iris. Blue will signify the motor is connected to zoom. Yellow will signify the motor is connected to other or unassigned. And purple will signify the motor is connected to focus. To calibrate the motor, you can do so through the hand unit. To calibrate the motor from the hand unit, you can hold down the function button, and after 3 seconds, it will automatically calibrate all motors, or by holding the pairing button on the motor itself. And then once assigning and calibrating your motor, it should be ready to control. So when you're using a lens without hard stops, the process is going to be very similar. You're going to run the autocal as you did before. However, the motor should stop after 15 seconds of not hitting any hard stops. After that, we can manually calibrate the lens by swiping up from the home screen and selecting Motor, Focus, and Manual Cal. We can start the calibration process, and then we can use the wheel to turn the motor until the lens reaches minimum focus. Press Confirm, and then rotate the wheel until the lens reaches infinity. Press Confirm. Return to the home screen, and you're now ready to use your lens without hard stops. A situation you may find yourself in is when you spin the wheel and the physical limitations of the wheel do not line up with the firmware limitations, meaning you may hit 999 on the firmware, but the wheel still has room to travel. We can fix this by going into the main menu and selecting Settings, and then using the Calibrate knob feature. You can press Calibrate to begin. We can follow the prompts, spinning the wheel all the way to the left before pressing Confirm, and then spinning the wheel all the way to the right before pressing Confirm. Confirm one more time, and then the home button to return to the main screen, and you can see the physical limitations of the wheel now align with 999 on one end and 0 on the other. All right, we're now going to take a look at how to set marks on the Nano II hand unit. This is useful when you're trying to mark a subject at a specific focal distance. You can do so by single pressing the function button. And you'll notice the mark appears on the UI, and then you'll get some haptic feedback when you reach that point. To delete these, you can double tap the function button. And you also have the option of setting a mark with the A and B button on the UI. Very similarly, single tap to set, and then double tap to delete. If you need to set a specific range for the focus motor to reach but not to exceed, you can hold the A and B button and then rotate to select a range. Single tapping to lock that range into place. This is useful if you have a quick focus throw or if you have a move where you do not want the focus motor to exceed a certain distance. This can then be deleted by holding the A and B button on the UI. On the lens profile screen, you have the same options in terms of single pressing the function key to set marks, and then double tapping to delete. And then you also have the A and B button on the UI. It does appear a little bit different on this screen. However, it serves the same function in terms of setting marks. Double tap to delete, and then hold to set an A and B range. Single tap to confirm. You've now limited the range that the unit can go. We're now going to take a look at some of the sub-menus within the additional settings menu. This can be accessed by swiping up from the main menu and selecting Settings. At the top, you'll see an option for calibrating the knob, which is what we used previously. And just below that, you have an option to adjust the brightness of the unit. This can also be adjusted automatically by selecting Auto. Below that, you'll see the setting for knob, which can be used to assign a different focus motor to the main control dial of the unit, and can also be used to reset it to default settings. And under that, you'll see the same option for the zoom rocker, allowing you to control the zoom, focus, or iris motor from the rocker on the unit itself. You have an option for vibration, which can be enabled or disabled, as well as has adjustable strength. And lastly, you have a standby mode, which can be turned on and off and will allow the unit to go to sleep after a certain time frame of being inactive. The next submenu we'll take a look at is System, where you have the option to see information regarding the unit, such as the firmware and runtime. Below that, you'll have an option to change the language of the unit between English and Chinese, as well as an option to update the firmware and import custom lens information. You can adjust the rotation of the screen for different mounting options, as well as reset the unit to factory settings. The next menu we're going to take a look at is the motor menu, which will have some options in relation to the motors. We'll select focus as an example, and you can see you have the option to automatically calibrate the motor, as well as to manually calibrate the motor if using a photo lens. You can adjust the torque of the motor, as well as have a reminder of what color and motor number the motor is currently assigned to. You can adjust the direction that the motor spins, as well as the sensitivity, which is how responsive the motor is going to be. We recommend keeping this higher. And you have the same options for the iris, zoom, and the other motor. The last submenu we're going to take a look at is the connect menu, which will find the 2.4G option that we use to connect the hand wheel to our motor. Below that, you'll also see an option for power, which is going to allow you to adjust the transmission power of the hand unit. This is useful when the hand unit is mounted physically farther away from the motor. Below that, you'll find Bluetooth, which you can use to connect the unit to your camera system, and it functions very similarly to the Bluetooth in your phone. You also have the option to connect to Wi-Fi, which again functions similarly to a cell phone or computer, allowing you to connect to the internet for firmware updates. And below that, you'll find an option for connecting various camera systems to the unit. That was an overview of the features and functionalities of the Nucleus Nano II. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms, as well as tag us in any photos or videos that you take while using the system. You can also subscribe right here on YouTube to stay up to date with all things regarding the Nano II. I'm Nick from TILTA. Thanks for watching.